So let's analyze, at least do an initial first year pass, maybe first and a half year pass of Chorale BWV 3.6. When we teach 4-part and 3-part chorale or choral style writing in music theory classes, most of the rules are based off of what Bach did in his chorales. I mean, it's a summary of that, and other people have done work that's been considered too, but this is where we get all our rules from. People have synthesized this style, and in this one here, Bach breaks one of the cardinal rules all the way through here. One of the things we teach beginning students is there's a score order. Sopranos are on top, altos are next, and they stay up on this staff here, and then tenors, and then basses, and you can tell by the stems which part is which. And we also talk about ranges, and then not crossing over voices, which means that the alto should not go above the soprano should not go below the alto should not go below the tenor, and the tenor should not go above the alto, and bass and tenor shouldn't cross either. And he just does it again and again and again here. So you can see right off the bat, this E is going to skip down to the A right there, and the C sharp is already going to be above that, right? That's the same A as that one right there, and he just keeps going up, and then he's got an E there, right? So the E for the tenors is right there. And I have heard different teachers at different times say that the rules get squishier for the inside voices, and that's true. At least you can find more exceptions, but he's just doing it everywhere. It still should be an exception, right? Same kind of thing, dips down to the C sharp. He's going all the way up to a G sharp right there, right? Here, he starts on an F sharp, which is that note right there, and just goes up 2 more steps. So it's F sharp, G sharp, and A. He's going to be there when it's done. Overall, if you didn't know whose part it was, you'd say it's still nice closed voice texture, but he's just all over the place. Even breaks here where the bass, it goes up to the A, and this drops down to the E briefly like that. So there's something going on in his writing here where he just kind of went like, well, whatever, I'm just going to do this. And that's the first thing. The next thing is he has a ton of non-chord tones on the beat, and then resolves the dissonance on the between the beat, and we'll see that again and again. So if you're trying to analyze this, there's just some places in here which sounds really like destructively dissonant. Let me play this one spot right here, and we're going to get to here, and you're going to hear this right here. This chord here is D sharp, F sharp, and A. It's a D sharp diminished chord, and he's going to land on the G sharp right there, and it's just going to sound not just terrible against the F sharp, but against the A. That's these 2 notes right here. It's great. It's fantastic. So here we are here. We're on this chord, right? And we go, now we cross over the bar line, and this still sounds just fine, right? So here, it comes back up, and then you get this G sharp in the bass with this rest of the chord. And you're like, what? And I even went back and checked, did I transcribe this right? And it's correct. And then it comes down to there, like that, right? And so even the next chord, it's got, it's just dissonant. Those are hard. And this is F sharp is a suspension right there. That doesn't even resolve normally. It goes to a sort of passing chord right there, and then finally resolves over a little later. So he's on a dissonance tear as well as a range issue. Okay, so that being said, let's just dive in and think about this as a process. You should find this. I'm not going to play through all of it right now because I'll play spots, but listen to it so that you get an idea of what it sounds like, because it looks like we're in the key of A, but these D sharps start happening everywhere, and pretty soon we realize we're not in the key of A. It starts there very briefly and immediately changes to the key of 3 sharps plus another sharp, 4 sharps, key of E, which is the dominant, right? So let's just check this out here. Remember that our fermati, these cadence points, are going to be 1 chords or 5 chords, and they got to make sense. So if I go, well, look, it's a B, D sharp, and F sharp. That's not a 1 chord in the key of A, and it's not a 5 chord in the key of A. It in fact is the 5 chord in the key of E, right? So we've changed the key of E, and you can see the leading tones there. So this is a 5, and this is a half cadence, but we're in the key of E, so even though we're going to start in A, it's going to change somewhere here for us, okay? And then we come across here, and we have an E major chord, E, G sharp, B, and E. So again, they're 1 or 5 chords almost all the time, and that's going to be my 1 chord in the key of E. And this here is going to be my 5 chord for there, B, B, D sharp, F sharp. There's my 7 right there, 5, 7, right? And root, real 5 chord, F sharp going to E, so E top and bottom. This is a perfect authentic cadence, okay? So listen, and then don't just dive in at the beginning and go that way. Look for structural things, okay? Let's just keep going here for a second. Here's an E, E, G sharp, and a B. We could be in the key of E still, yes? Right? But if that were the case, then we should see, so this could be a 1 chord in the key of E, but could also be a 5 chord in the key of A. So we need to look at how we get into it here, right? And remember that this is an A and a C sharp and an E and a C sharp. This looks like an A chord right here, some passing notes, okay? In fact, from here on out, I'm not seeing any more D sharps. Are you? There's no D sharp there. There's no D sharp there. Key of E minus this D sharp is 3 sharps, which is key of A, I suspect. And if you play through this, you're going to hear this in the key of A. And this is a half cadence. And this is a 5 chord in the key of A. So we're going to have to think about where did we get back to the key of A. Maybe here, maybe somewhere there. We have to be aware of that. And then when we finally come back at the end, I know there's a D sharp there, but final chord is going to be a 1 chord unless it's part of a bigger piece and we know that it's connected on. This is an A chord, A, C sharp, E is 1 chord. Here's my 5 chord with the 7 on top right there. And this is a temporary nod back to that other key because it's going to have a D sharp. So this is going to be like the 5 or the 7 of 5. Let's just do this right now. This is, looks like a D sharp, F sharp, A, B, D sharp, F sharp, A, and this is a passing tone. So this is a B dominant chord right here, B, D sharp, F sharp, A, and that would be, remember that dominant 7 chords are almost always 5s, 6, 5 because of the inversion here, with the 7th on it, and B is the 5 of E, which is our 5 chord. So that's your second year stuff. When you find a chord that's not in the key that it should be, and we haven't changed key for a whole section, it could be a 5 or a 7 of something coming up, right? And you just label it like that, okay? All right, well, how about this? I'm gonna do my analysis in blue, but when we come up with rule breaking, we'll use a red pen because there's a ton of it. So start off in A, and this is an A chord, A, C sharp, like that, right? So that's my 1 chord. Sorry, I'm left-handed and I'm trying to stay in camera. So it's kind of a funky looking 1, right? And that means passing tones, probably, but we're just gonna keep it simple. Think first year, and sometimes these will combine to make other chords, but for the most part, we just want to say not part of the chord. We want to ignore that kind of thing. Similarly here, this looks like a chord, that looks like not part of the chord. We can double check this. This is also an A, C sharp, E, E. It's another A chord right there, right? And let's just not be too clever and overthink it. Let's just call these not part of the chord for right now. Later, in third term, you go back and do non-chord tones, and I'm sure I'll do a revisit video at some point. Okay, A, C sharp, E, another A. Yes. Okay, so this is a 1, 6. You can write another 1 there, or if you just want to write 6 for the inversion, that's fine. We got to get our red pen out here. See these things? They have crossed voicings. So I'm just going to go X Vox. If I was marking your paper and you were writing like this, I'd be like, no, you're not supposed to cross voices like that. And then you can say, BWV 3.6 Bach does it here, and here, and here. And I'd have to say, good, but prove to me you can do it without that first, because, you know, Bach wrote, we have, what, 400 odd of these things, maybe, and there's probably more, like maybe 400 to 450 of these things, and there could be 500, 550 of them out there, or some have been lost. Yeah, let's keep going. D, A, D, F sharp. Well, that would be a D chord, and that would be my 4 chord, yes. And we'll just, look, these are not part of the chord. And then here, F sharp, A, C, A. So F sharp, A, C sharp. That would be a 6 chord, yes. F sharp minor. And that's a little different because 6 usually doesn't follow 4. 4 would usually follow 6, but I think because we're doing this, looks like going to be a secondary dominant in E, that, remember this was a half cadence in E, that you could also reconsider this in the key of E, and it might not be like 4 going to 6. It might be like, and now we're in the other key, right? So we'll look at that in just a minute here. Sorry, this looks like an A now. It's a smudgy pen. Okay, but here, not part of the chord, not part of the chord. Here we have our chromaticism right here. And so let's work backwards. We know this is a half cadence in E. Well, this is E, G sharp, E, G sharp. That's enough to say 1 chord right there. And then here we have, well, we have a B, D sharp, F sharp. That would be my 5 chord, right? B, D sharp, F sharp. There's my A, which we can call a 7. So we'll call this a first inversion. 6, 5. Now I'm not doing a 5 because I'm intending to change keys here, right? Because my cadences tell me I'm in a different key. And so I'm just, you know, we could just say, oh, we're in the key of E here, but I just want you to think for a minute backwards. If I have an F sharp, A, C sharp in the key of E, that would be my 2 chord, right? Which is what it is. So you can think I'm in the key of A here, and then you can think at the same time I'm in the key of E. And, you know, in the classical era, and just if you learn modulations in 2nd year, that's called a common chord modulation, right? Okay, where a chord can act in both. So that's tacked on right there. Okay, looks like we're going to be in the key of E for the rest of this line here. So let's just keep going and seeing if there's anything weird going on here. B, D sharp, F sharp is the same thing as this. We've just jumped the octave. So it's still a 5 chord. And then you can call that a non-chord tone, or you can call it the 7th and put a figured bass right there, like that. Which should take us to a 1-6. 5-2 likes to go to, this is a 7th, likes to go down. 5 likes to go to 1. And I have an E, G sharp, B. This is an E chord in first inversion, not part of the chord. Here's that fun thing I showed you at the beginning. It's pretty ugly because of this dissonance right there. You expect this non-chord tone to resolve into a non-chord tone, to a chord tone there, and it doesn't. So it's kind of jarring. This is our non-chord tone. And we know this because we can listen to it, but also you see the F sharp there. It's going to cozy up with this right here, and the G sharp here is not going to sound good with the A. And so you can just hear that. I'll play from here. Got this, yeah, it's like this. And then you just get this harsh sound. You think it's going to go into a nice place, and it goes, right? And there we go, right? So F sharp, A, and a D sharp, F sharp, A. Well, D sharp is a 7 chord, yes? So 7 diminished. And D sharp, F sharp is the 3rd of the chord, so 6 right there. And let's take a look here. So 7 should go to 1, yes? Or to 5 or something, but you know, if it's going to resolve, it's going to go to 1. And I have an E, G sharp, and a B, right? That's my 1 chord right there. But again, this is an on-beat dissonance. We call this a suspension because it holds over and it resolves down by step, and it does. But even before it gets there, it does this little deke out in the middle there. Yeah, let me show you what that means. Here I've got my E, G sharp, and B. That's a 1-6 right there, right? And you could just say non-chord tones. You could go like not a chord tone, not a chord tone, not a chord tone. But if we want to examine it a little closer, B, D sharp, F sharp, A, that's my 5-7 chord. a lot of times if you're not doing like a random single or double, non-chord tone, you'll find that they repitch or reharmonize all the notes to be, another chord between them. It's called a passing chord or something like that. And so we can ignore it at first year, but at second year we should acknowledge that this is actually a dominant chord. B, D sharp, F sharp, and A. So this is a 5 with the 7th, but the 5th is in the bass, so 4-3. And you could put it in brackets if you wanted to just say it's a thing that happened. Call it a passing chord. But that's very common to harmonize between the chords if you're going to do multiple non-chord tones to make another chord or partial chord. Often whatever is the 5 away from what's between those two things. And that's my suspension right there, which resolves down to there. That's the resolution of the suspension. We're not doing non-chord tones. I'm not going to label the intervals and get into all that. But most people that have started with non-chord tones will say a suspension is a non-chord tone that is approached by the same note and then resolved down by step. That's where it is right there. This is ornamentation or interruption before that. And it happens. Not super common, but it happens. Okay? So now we can ask the same thing here. We have like an F sharp and an A and a C sharp. So that's an F sharp minor chord there. And you could ask yourself, is it a 2 chord? Maybe. I mean, you could call it a 2 chord. It's 2 and it's in first inversion. And then this is a B, E, and a G sharp, which is like my 1, 6, 4, right? And now that we know that, we should put a bracket here and say this is all dominant harmony, right? Cadential tonic 1, 6, 4. And so that makes the 2 completely like functional. 2 goes to 5, even though this looks like a 1 chord, it's functioning like a 5 right there. Or if you really wanted to, you could put that and say this is also a passing chord of some kind. It's up to you. I like it though, makes sense. Also, we've been told time and time again that as we get closer to a cadence, sometimes the harmonic rhythm or rate of change of the chords can speed up, and this all is so easily explained as chords in here, 1 going to 5, going to 1, 2, 5, 1, cadence. Seems good, right? Okay, there we go. Did we have any other place that we needed to bring out the red pen and look for crossing errors or something weird? Not so far, but it's going to happen here, pretty sure. So let's get over down to this spot. I'm just going to check my camera position. Looks like we're still good. All right. I know that this is a half cadence in the key of A. I mean, we're heading back to A. We're finishing in A, started in A. There are no D sharps in this area. So we will have to eventually say, how do we get back to the key of A? And I got a feeling we're just back in the key of A, because this is my E chord right here. And this is also another E chord right here. And so we saw this in 2.7, or what the previous one was. He likes to start this chord here, right there, or the next chord be a change up pivot chord. He's done that before. This is an E chord. So you could say I'm still in the key of E, but really what it is, I'm sorry, that'd be a 1 chord, right? In the key of E. But really what it is we're back in the key of A, and it's just a 5 chord. And if you look, it goes right to there. 1 chord in the key of A. I'll play this for you so you can hear. I'll go from here. So we've got our 1, 6, 4 right there. So it's, and then we get our 5, 7 in the key of E. And perfect authentic cadence. Nice way to finish off. Kind of like saying that's the end of the story. Now, if you listen to the next one, first off, there's a fermata there. Then the choir takes a breath, and then we sing here like it's a brand new start, and we go. But then it's like, it kind of sounds like a 1-4. But then I think the rest of the notes after that kind of say, no, it's really it's not the case. And now here we have our crossover thing right there. It's a G sharp like that. Right. And then, wow, it's so crazy. Okay. Yeah, we have to just presume we've gone back to the key of A at this point. So these will be not part of the chord, right? A, C sharp, E. Here we have an F sharp and a G sharp, and a C sharp and a C sharp. That can't work. And a beginning student who's going, I don't read ledger lines really well, spend some time reading ledger lines, right? C, E, G. So this F sharp in the bass right there and the G sharp in the tenor are not friends. They're going to sound good if it's jazz. And some people have suggested that Bach was very jazzy at times, but that's not the case in this, right? So we have the C sharp as well. If we get rid of the F sharp and consider that E sharp, now we have a C sharp, E sharp, and G sharp, right? Is that even on the page? Barely, yes. So this could be a C sharp major triad, okay? And what does that mean? That means that it's not a 3 chord per se. It's a 5 of something. Remember, 5 chords dominants are major triads, and so when you alter a chord from its normal quality to be major or normal quality to be a dominant 7 chord, like a major minor 7 chord, it sounds like it's going to be 5 of something. And you say, what's C sharp 5 of? It's 5 of F sharp. And here we are, look, F sharp, C, F sharp, A. And we'll just stay in this key. This is the 6th chord right there. And so we would mark, this is my non-chord tone. I know I said I'd stay in red, or out of red for a cross voicing, and there is one right there, right? That's that cross voicing, okay? Another classic mistake that Bach's doing on purpose. And, this is my chord tone. I'm just gonna pop this in here so it's easy to see. This C sharp major chord would be a 5 thirds in the bass, the 6 of 6, or F sharp, because F sharp is 6 right there. And that's it, right? Okay. We have some crunchy things coming on here. But you do see that this crosses over, right? This is a G sharp up there, right? It's crossed over that voice there. Okay, I'm gonna make a comment about the ranges in this too in a little bit, not just the crossing voices, but other things. All right, I suspect this could be a chord, right? E, G, B, D. That would be like a 5 chord. G sharp, so that's like a E dominant 7 chord right there. And that might be okay to call it that right there. I mean, we can certainly call it a 5, 7, right? Put it in parentheses, right? Let's take a look at our next chord here. We have a D, an E, an A sharp, and a C sharp. And this here, this is one of those times again where Bach has put a non-chord tone on the beat. So we get this right here, my F sharp, right? Minor chord steps into the dominant. And then you expect this next thing to be consonant because the dominant chord needs to resolve, and you get this. And that's just like, ow, ow, right? But that's because the D is not playing well against the C sharp or the E. And you could say, well, is it the other chord notes that are being bad? No, because the D immediately resolves down to the C sharp. So this right there is the chord, right? A sharp, C sharp, and E, right? A sharp, C sharp, and E. And so let's figure that out for a minute. So this is non-chord tone. A sharp, C sharp, and E is going to be an A sharp diminished chord, yeah? And that would be what? A sharp, well, diminished chords, unless we're in minor, are going to be 7 chords, right? So A sharp is the 7 of B, and look what's coming up right here, B, B, D, F sharp. That's my B chord right there, and B is the 2 chord, right? And so this right here, right, is another chromatic chord. It's the 7 diminished, okay, and C sharp's in the bass, so 6 of 2, just like that, okay? All right, so really this is like 6 and then changes into the 7 of 2. This is kind of a passing chord again, kind of like this right there. Put a PC for passing chord. 2. And look here again. Alto is going to drop down. And this is way up in the stratosphere. F sharp, G sharp, A. The A is right there. So we have another siren go off. At least he's consistent with his cross voicing. He does it the same way. The alto jumps way down. The tenors step way up. The altos jump way down. The tenors keep stepping up, way down, stepping up, right? So it's not random. It's not like he made a mistake. This is a feature of this piece. And you know, once the choir figures out how to do this, they'll keep doing it, and it will sound nice. I mean, it'll sound on purpose, you know, and give him the sound that he wanted there. That's good. Okay. Let's check this out. We have a C sharp and a C sharp, so we know that this is probably not a chord tone, right? E and what's that? A. So we have an A and a C sharp and an E. Oh, that's a 1 chord, isn't it? Does that work? Are we allowed to do that? Go from 2 to there? Might need to check that note out as well and see what's going on. But it's A, C sharp, and E. So, and C sharp's in the bass. So 1, 6, right? This will be also a non-chord tone, unless we go back and calculate with all these things, and they may be F sharp, D sharp, or D, F sharp, and C. Could if we wanted to. I'm not sure it's necessary. We've already done kind of a deep dive on this harmony already. All right, going here, 5 would normally go to 1. We'd expect that, but it's not an A chord. A, C sharp, F sharp. It's an F sharp minor chord, which is 6. This is a deceptive progression. Bach does this occasionally. It's nice. So I'm gonna play this horrible thing looking at the cross voicing. There's my bass. That's my soprano or tenor way up there, and then right, and then it walks up, and then these guys flip over, right, and then we skip up to there, and then we get our half cadence, right? And so from here, instead of going to here like that, we go half cadence, and then we get our deceptive progression, which is a nice sort of like, oh, we're heading to the end. Oh, psych, I made you look. So nice. Okay. And then we have an E and a G sharp and a B. This looks like it's going to be a 1 chord right here, right? It's 1, but it's got first inversion going on there. And here we have an A and a C sharp and a C sharp and an E. So that's another 1 chord, but because this has jumped down below, let's get our red pen. We have cross voicing going on here too, right? Okay, but that's actually just mimicking what the alto did down here. It's like this mirroring, not mirroring, but like repetition idea, right? Which is why he's doing it. You are going to get something that looks like a 1, 6, 4. It depends on how you perceive this. If you hear the melody like, right, and you hear the bass line is, then there's nothing wrong with it. It just sounds like a 1 chord. Oh, I'm sorry, I got this wrong here. It's not a 5. My bad. Sorry. There we go. It's 5. I'm thinking we're back in the key of E when I did that. This is 5, and then if you include that, it's 6, 5 right there. So going to a 1, right? I don't know how much that's important, right? Because I think you can hear the bass line going like, T, do, right? Depends on how you hear it. All right, and then maybe we'll look at this in just a minute, because it seems like it's giving us leading tones into the E chord again. Here's my 5 chord right there, and there's my 7th right there. And then have another F sharp chord right here, so it's doing 6 again, you could call this a seventh if you want, or or you can just call it a leading tone, and then we have the end right there. I think especially since we have the 5, 6, 5 of 5 going to the 5 here, it's being preceded by something similar. So let's just check this out for a minute. If I have D sharp and F sharp and A and a C sharp, well, that would be D sharp, F sharp, A, and C sharp. Yes? And that would be a D sharp half diminished 7, which could be 7 of 5 of E, yes? And I think that's what's been built here. So you can have this little 7 diminished, and fifth is in the third is in the bass, 6, 5 of 5, going to your 5 right there. Nice. So lots of great harmony, lots of good things of like process, find your cadences, deduce what key you're in, listen to it. Curious writing with lots of non-chord tones happening on the beat, especially after what we think would be a normal resolution to a consonant sound, but not, right? And then 1, 2, 3, 4 cross voicings, right? It's not random, by the way. There, it's part of his melodic process in the inner voices. They're all doing the same thing, right? But I like this because it shows that Bach wasn't constrained by stylistic norms. He could do something that made musical sense to himself, and he knew that it worked musically. Like, we have these rules, and they help us troubleshoot when we're having problems or we don't like the way something sounds. We can say, well, what's going on that's not orthodox? They can also help us get started, give us a framework to do construction in. Like, house builders don't go and start building houses randomly without plans, right? They have a plan and it's laid out, and they do things in an order. And when you write, you can say, I'm going to be completely self-indulgent and write creatively. I've done that, do that all the time. But you can get really, really interesting things because you're allowing yourself to stray from the constraints of normal conventions, things we call rules. It's also highly inefficient. And, a lot of times I'll listen to something I'm writing and something that's stuck, and I'll just go back in with some of these rules and say, well, what's going on here? And when I see that I've deviated from rules or broken rules, or an error, classical error has skipped in, it can say, well, that's why I'm getting this sound, and that can help me break out from there. Also, if I'm writing the spec, I need something in a certain style that goes to the rules of that style, and it helps me write quickly so I can get something done that the client wants, that they're going to be happy with, because I understand the mechanics of what's going on in that. So, okay, nice. Takeaway for yourself if you're one of my students or if you're learning this. Do you understand why I looked at cadences first and how I deduced what keys were in? I think that's a big takeaway from this one, right? When you look at a cadence point, and Bach chorales are nice because there's lyrics that go with this too. I didn't put them in just because it gets real crowded, but these fermati tell us where these are, so we can find them easily. Other pieces of music, the texture is more complicated, but when it changes and stops up, you can see the cadences maybe a little clearer. But you find the cadences, and in almost all situations, you're going to end on a 1 chord or a 5 chord. There's a few other things like a deceptive cadence. That's probably the only other one that you really need to worry about. And so, then you ask yourself, well, if this is a 1 chord, then what key am I in? And is this preceded by a 5 or sometimes a 4 chord, giving me an authentic cadence coming in here? So like there, it's like B major. Well, am I in the key of B major? If I'm in the key of B major, then I should be preceded by an F sharp major, and that's not the case, right? Or F sharp dominant. This is going to sound like a 5 chord. So if I'm in 5 chord, then I'm in the key of E, and that makes a lot more sense because I'm in the key of A major, but then I start seeing the D sharps click in here, right? Then I go to the end of the next phrase, it's also E, and I've got the D sharps. And if it's a 1 chord, then I should see it's 5 chord behind it, and this is my 5 chord right here, B, D, F sharp with the A, right? Here, I get back over, and this is certainly is an E chord, and you could think, well, am I in the key of E still? but then you start looking behind and say, if it's the key of E and it's a 1 chord, then I should have a 5 chord before it, which would be a B chord, and I don't right there. I have an A chord, right? There's no D sharps going on in here anymore, and so I quickly deduced that it's a 5 chord, and if it's 5, I'm in the key of A, and that helps me float backwards, and it makes more sense here. So in some ways, this makes a lot of sense. If you look at this, the melody on its own is like, right? We've changed key, right? And then we're, right? Makes sense, right? And then this next one is sort of similar. I mean, the melody's contour is different in some ways, but the rhythms are simple as well. Like they pick up. Feels like a stop on a half cadence, just like here. So it's not exactly the same, but the rhythm is very similar. And then, see, this is going up and doing the same thing. And then this deviates a little bit, but we're coming to the end. Right? And if somebody wanted to criticize these analyses and say, you know, you should listen to it more and you should sing the melody more, I'd agree with them. I'm just hopping on here, have an extra 30 minutes tonight between marking and things, and thought I'd do another one of these, and we'll certainly use it in the classes ahead as well, so it's nice to have these done ahead of time. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this and you're seeing some of the thinking behind there. Also, if you're having problems reading these notes, there, and there, pop onto a nice website or make some flashcards and just practice. You know, 5-10 minutes over a few days just on a few notes can make you so much more proficient, and that will fix and make analysis amongst everything else so much more enjoyable and easy for you, because you won't be spending so much time trying to figure out what those notes are and then trying to figure out what that means. Yeah, so good. All right. We'll revisit this again at some time and maybe talk about non-chord tones.